Today we are exploring all aspects of Roman prostitution. Viewer discretion is advised for this video, as some of this video may be offensive or disturbing. We, the makers of this video, in no way support or condone the actions of the subjects featured. In ancient Rome, men were allowed to have harems of both male and female lovers, while women were permitted to have lovers outside of marriage without persecution. This attitude might seem shocking to us today, but remember that the Romans were not the first civilization to allow prostitution. In fact, it dates back to biblical times. The Bible itself mentions sacred prostitutes who offered their services in pagan temples. Ancient Rome inherited this tradition from Greece and took it a step further by making prostitution a cornerstone of society. Prostitution wasn't just accepted in Rome, it was encouraged. Roman men were expected to live up to the ideal of the manly Roman man, and part of being manly meant having sex. Sex outside of marriage was acceptable for men, and many high-profile Romans participated in it. Prostitution also helped prevent sexual assaults on the street, because any woman alone at night was assumed to be a prostitute and therefore fair game for the taking. Roman brothels weren't just for men. Prostitution was considered a respectable profession for women and former slaves. Some prostitutes chose the profession willingly and could earn a lot of money. Brothel owners sometimes let their prostitutes keep the money they earned and share a portion with them. Throughout the Roman Empire, prostitution played a vital role in social life. It was so ingrained in daily life that Romans wrote extensively about it. One of the most famous works of Roman literature written during the empire's golden age, the poem called The Art of Love, gave advice on everything from choosing a mistress to avoiding sexually transmitted diseases. We have a lot of information about Roman prostitution thanks to the Romans' love of paperwork. Not only was prostitution legal and widespread, it was highly regulated. To protect the health of Roman citizens, prostitutes were required to register with the state and get regular checkups to ensure they were disease-free. Brothels had to meet certain standards and were often inspected by the authorities. For instance, in Pompeii, one of the best-preserved cities from that era, there were 76 official brothels. Surprisingly, given the nature of their business, they had to abide by zoning laws. You couldn't open a brothel next to a bakery or a place of worship. It is estimated that around 20% of adult women in ancient Rome were prostitutes. Many prostitutes were former slaves. When slavery was outlawed in Rome, many freed slaves continued to work in prostitution because it paid better than other jobs available to them. Women who chose prostitution as a career were usually poor and came from broken homes. Prostitution wasn't seen as a negative thing in Roman culture, so these women weren't stigmatized the way sex workers are today. In fact, prostitution was seen as a respectable job, especially since it was one of the few careers where women could make good money and have some autonomy over their lives. Prostitutes were respected enough that even the goddess of chastity and childbirth, Juno, was associated with prostitution. During the festival of the same name, Roman matrons would dress up as prostitutes and attend parties where they prostituted themselves. Not all prostitutes worked indoors. Some worked as independent contractors, traveling from taverns to taverns, offering their services to the highest bidder. Some prostitutes worked as streetwalkers, soliciting customers in public places. They usually attracted the attention of their clients by dancing provocatively in public. Interestingly, there was no word for homosexuality in Latin, and same-sex relationships were not stigmatized. In fact, catamites were often young men who were paid for sex with older men. Some historians believe that the high rates of syphilis among the Roman population can be traced back to the popularity of catamite sex. Many prostitutes worked part-time and kept their day jobs. A woman could work as a prostitute in the evening after working as a tavern maid or a weaver during the day. The average age of prostitutes was between 18 and 35. Most had experience as handmaidens or slave girls before turning to sex work. A typical day in the life of a Roman prostitute began early in the morning, when she would get up, bathe and dress in her finest clothes. She would then go out into the marketplace and wait for customers. If she was lucky, she would find a customer quickly, but if not, she would have to wander the streets for hours. After the client ejaculated, he would pay the prostitute and leave. She would then bathe again and wait for her next customer. Prostitutes in ancient Rome were typically paid by the hour, and the rate varied depending on the city and the time period. However, the average fee was about a denarii for a single hour. This amount was enough to buy a prostitute's freedom from a brothel. So many prostitutes worked hard to save up enough money to buy their freedom. The Roman brothel was a place of business. but it was also a place of community for many prostitutes. They developed close relationships with each other and often shared their earnings and customers. This sense of community made it easier for them to survive the difficult working conditions and the stigma associated with prostitution. The Roman Empire fell in the 5th century AD, but prostitution continued to be legal throughout Europe until the 19th century. In many ways, Roman attitudes towards prostitution were ahead of their time. They recognized that sex work was a necessary part of life, and they tried to regulate it as much as possible to protect the health and safety of their citizens. Even today, there are many similarities between Roman prostitution and modern sex work. Both are illegal in most places, yet both are still widely practiced. So the next time you hear someone say that prostitution is a dangerous, dirty business, just remember that it's been around for thousands of years and that some of the world's greatest civilizations, including the Romans, have embraced it as a normal part of life. What are your thoughts on Roman prostitution? Do you think it's something that should be embraced or condemned? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Also, please subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching.